Hello, everyone. I'm Fernanda Vicente, and today we'll be talking about concept checking questions, how to make language clear to students. Um, I'm going to start sharing with you um, a little story, a very short story of a moment with a teacher and her students. So, after explaining something, so a grammar topic or new vocabulary, reading a text, the teacher asks the students, "Do you understand?" And they all say, "Yes, teacher, we do. Yeah, it's clear. We understand." And then the teacher sets a task for them, lets them work on a task. And a few moments later, this is what happens. So we have all the students in the room asking questions, calling the teacher, "Teacher, can you help me? Teacher, what does this word mean? Teacher, teacher, teacher," all over the place. And the teacher gets a little crazy because she wants to answer all the questions, because she starts asking herself, but they've just told me that they got it, that they understood the topic, that they got the idea. Why is it that now they don't? Yeah. Um, I'm pretty sure this has already happened to, if not all of you, most of you, and not just once, right? Um, and let's think, let's reflect on that, because although it is a common situation, it's not something we like and we want to happen, right? So if you're watching this video, think about it. Think about your classes. How often does this happen to you? Does it happen every class? Um, with some specific groups, with, or if with all your groups? Why do you think that happens? If it does happen, start paying attention to the situations in which it happens. Is it always when students are exposed to new grammar? Is it when they are exposed to new vocabulary, or after a listening exercise, a listening activity, or after you present any new topic, after you give them instructions for a task or for something they are going to work on? And what are some things that we can do to avoid this? Think about it, reflect a little bit on that. Um, One of the things that we can do to avoid this situation is basically the topic of our talk today, concept checking questions, something we call in the ELT world CCQs. Okay, but what are CCQs? So concept checking questions, according to Steve Darn and Ian White, they are a set of questions designed to ensure comprehension of the target language, raise awareness of its problems, and to indicate to the teacher that the learners have fully understood. So instead of simply asking, "Do you understand? Is it okay? Is it clear?" we start asking the concept checking questions, which are questions that will help us have more evidence on how much students have really grasped what we wanted them to get. Okay. Um, to make it clear for you, let's see some examples. Okay. So here we have DC grammar. Okay, this is unit 3 of book 2. They are studying past continuous, and there is an example on the book that says, "An old pirate was sitting in a bar one night." So we have this example of the language. So let's imagine that the teacher has already systematized the language. They worked with this reading here, in which they have the anecdote. They have the questions here to check understanding of the task and to start noticing the language they're going to work on. And then teacher systematizes the language a little bit. And then to check understanding, we ask questions like, is it happening now or did it happen in the past? Is it still happening? Do we know when it happened? Was the action in progress for some time? So when we ask these questions to students, what we're doing is basically helping them notice how the past continues, in this case, how the target language works. So is it happening now or did it happen in the past? They would say, oh, in the past. So I know that it's talking about the past. Is it still happening? No, it's not. It's finished. It's a finished action. Do we know when it happened? Well, here is one night, although it's not very clear, but we do have a specific time there. Was the action in progress for some time? Yes, it was in progress for some time. So that's how the past continuous works. So if we look at these questions, they have some things in common, right? And most of them are yes or no questions, so that students only have to say yes or no, or they are questions in which students have two options of answer. Yeah, was the action in progress for some time? Yes. Is it happening now or did it happen in the past? So they have two options, now or in the past. Is it still happening? Yes or no. Do we know when it happened? Again, yes or no. Okay, so when they are able to answer these questions, we as teachers, we have a better idea of how much they got. And also, not only does it help us have an idea of how much they got, but also it helps students get any details that they might have missed during the other parts of the language systematization, or the explanation, or the discovery, the moment of discovery of noticing they had with the teacher before. Now I want you to give it a try, okay? So even if you are watching this later, I want you to go to this page here, okay? These are pages 16 and 17. Again, decoding book 2, okay, unit 4. They're working with present perfect. If you don't have this material, think about present perfect, okay? Or use any books that you have with you. Think about the next lesson you are going to teach, okay? But try to do this exercise. Try to practice a little bit. I want you to go and find the target language, okay? So what is the topic that you are working with? What is the language you want students to learn? Choose an example, a sentence that you're going to use as example. You can get it from the reading passage or from a video, an audio, whatever input source you are using. And then think about some CCQs that you could ask your students. Remember that CCQs, they have to be simple questions, okay? And usually we do not use the target language in the CCQs because we are using them as a way of checking if students got the target language. So we can use CCQs for grammar, for vocabulary. So if I'm working with a vocabulary, I'm not going to use the word that is new for students in the CCQ, okay? For example, if they are learning the sun, okay, the word sun, then I'm gonna ask, does it appear during the day or at night? Okay, is it yellow or white? So things like that. We don't use the target language or the vocabulary that is in focus in the CCQs, okay? So if you're watching this recording, pause for some time now, go ahead, open your books, try it out, give it a try, okay? I'm sure it's a matter of practice. At first, it might be a little more difficult. You have to plan it more often. but with time it gets more natural, and then you will see how much it will help. Okay. But again, are CCQs the only way of making language clear to students? Is it the only way we have, the only tool we have, the only technique we have to check how much students got? Absolutely not. Okay. So whenever we are working with new language with students, there are some things we have to do, and CCQs is one of them. So we should always start providing students with a clear and meaningful context so that we can connect the target language to their lives, help them see the purpose of what they're studying. So you can see that in the books that you are working with, you always have a reading passage in which you are going to, which you're going to use as input source, right? So bring this topic to students' real lives. For example, the one of past continuous, they were working with an anecdote story. So ask them if they have any anecdotes they would like to share, if they like sharing stories. So everything students are exposed to should be contextualized, should be connected to something meaningful and real for them. After that, once we contextualize it, once we have a good input source, we are going to work a little bit with something we call guided discovery. So we're going to guide students into discovering the language and how it works. So by asking some strategic questions, by helping them notice the language they are using, okay? Helping them find and identify the language from the input source, okay? So again, we have a context and we guide them into finding out, into discovering the language. Once we do that, we start eliciting from students the again, how the language works, in which context they're going to use it. So by eliciting, we are not only making it clear for them, not only are we systematizing the language, but also making them active in this process, in the learning process. We engage the students, we help them build language collaboratively, so they can do things together, they can come up with their own examples, they can come up with their own hypothesis, and this helps them internalize the language and not just memorize it. And then finally, if we think it's still necessary, we work with CCQs. With all of these other things, chances are that students will get the language. So CCQs are just a way of, again, checking if they got it, but not the only way that the only technique we are going to use to make it clear to students. CCQs are more for us teachers to see if what we did was enough than for the students, okay? So it always comes last. It is always the last thing that we do to check and to close basically the moment of language systematization. Now, to finish here with you, I would like to share a video. This video is from the YouTube channel What is ELT? Okay, this is Rubinho Heredia, he's amazing. And in this video, he talks about CCQs. What is CCQs? What are CCQs? Sorry, he defines it and then he gives us some tips on how to work with the CCQs. Okay, I'm going to play the video here, but you can also find it on YouTube. All right.
Hello everyone, I'm Rubinho for What is ELT, and today I'm answering a question that's well familiar to those who have taken and a little bit daunting to those who are taking the CELTA. What is a CCQ? So stay tuned for definition, examples, and of course tips to help make your lessons even more successful, just like we do at our blog www.whatiselt.com. Let's go! In our field of ELT, we do love an acronym, don't we? ELT, TBL, PPP. And CCQ is an acronym that stands for Concept Check Questions, or Questions that Check Concepts. In other words, those are the questions that we ask our students. We want to make sure that they grasp the meaning of the vocabulary or grammatical structure that we're helping them learn. You might be thinking, but I already do that in the classroom, and you probably do. But there are more and less effective ways of checking understanding. It's very common for us to see teachers in classroom asking questions like, okay, do you understand? Do you have any doubts? As natural as those questions might be, they're not necessarily effective, mainly for two reasons. First, students might feel embarrassed to admit in front of everyone that they didn't really get the meaning. And second, they might misunderstand the concept. That means they might be under the wrong impression that they got the meaning, when in fact, what they understood is not exactly accurate. Things might be easier if you think of a concrete example. So I'm going to tell you a word and I want you to have a picture in your mind that represents that word, okay? Well, the word is bunny. Are you ready? When you picture the image of a bunny in your mind, you might have ended up with something like this, something like that, or even something as adorable as this little fellow over here, my pet rabbit, Frederico. Say hello to the camera, dear. Whatever image you had in your mind, it is recognizable as a bunny because it contains elements that make a bunny, and not a cat, not a mouse, not a dog. And these elements are the ones we should focus on when devising and asking our CCQs. Take the word bunny as an example again. Some appropriate CCQs would be, is it an animal? Is it big or small? Does it have big teeth? Does it have long ears? If students successfully answer those questions, they're providing you with evidence that they actually grasp the correct meaning. I think it just wants to lick my hand. Oh. And the same thing is true for grammar. We can ask CCQs to check if students understood the meaning of a grammatical structure before we move on to work on pronunciation and form. Let's take as an example the sentence, if I had enough money, I would buy a big house. Classic second conditional, right? Some possible CCQs are, do I want to buy a house? Do I have money to do it? Am I imagining a situation? If students successfully answer those questions, once again, they're providing you with indication that they got it. That's not way too familiar. The first tip I would like to give you in order to help you use CCQs effectively in the classroom is to keep your language simple or grade your language effectively. Regardless of the level you're teaching, make sure that the words and structures you use in the questions can be understood by all the learners in the group. The second suggestion I would like to make is for you to use yes or no questions such as, do I want to buy a house? Or then questions that have alternatives in them, like, is a bunny big or small? Of course you can use WH questions, but make sure that they are simple and straight to the point. Tip number 3, ask different students. It's very easy for us to ask a question to the whole group, listen to a correct answer given by one learner, and assume that everyone got it. In fact, that might not be true, so make sure you ask different questions to different students so you can get a more general sense of how the group as a whole is doing. My next recommendation is for you to avoid using the grammar you're teaching in your CCQ, and the reason for that is very simple. If you're teaching a certain structure and you're assuming that students do not yet grasp the meaning, how can they answer a question that uses it? Finally, tip number 5 is use CCQs throughout the lesson, not just in language presentation or language clarification stages. Doubts regarding vocabulary and opportunities for you to check understanding, they appear in many different moments of the lesson. When students are reading a text, when they have questions, and CCQs can be very useful. Of course, coming up with CCQs from the top of your head on the spot can be a little bit challenging, but the more you practice devising appropriate CCQs, the more confident you will feel to deal with this emergent language. Tchau, tchau, tchau. Ei vocês, vamos parar. Vamos parar todo mundo. And that's it for today. I hope this video helped to improve your grasp of what CCQs are and also provided you with tools that can help you make your lessons more effective. Let us know what you thought of the video in the comment section below, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. In the description, I'll include the link to the blog post related to CCQs and also to all of our social media, so you have no excuse not to be in touch. See you next time! Bunny. Bunny, say hi. Oh, that's so adorable. Say, subscribe, subscribe, subscribe.
So I hope the video helped too. Helped you get what a CCQ is and how we can use it in class. These are my references. Okay, so here you can find some blog posts, some articles on CCQs. Also, if you Google it, you are going to find lots of other articles talking about them. Okay. And if you have any questions, if you would like to get in touch and discuss a little bit more about CCQs and how to use them in your reality, in your with your students, please write me a line and I will be really glad to get in touch with you and talk about it. Okay, thank you so much for watching the video and see you next time. Bye bye.